Hi there, Create with Kelley crew. So glad you could join tonight. I hope you're having a wonderful happy hour or end of your day or beginning of your day or whatever it is. Glad to have you joining us. Hi, Patty. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. I am Kelley Pitts, independent Stampin' Up demonstrator since 2005. So I've been doing this quite a while. It's been fun. I really enjoy it. And you would too if you join the Create with Kelley crew. Would love to have you. We've got some great folks who have a big paper crafting community here in Lubbock. And I would love to have you join us online or at some in-person classes. We're actually getting to have those, thank goodness. The bad COVID word, it seems to be abating, so that's a good thing. We're glad to be able to have classes. I wanted to show you tonight something from the Expressions in Ink suite. We did that last week. We did a card from that suite that was kind of focused on pale papaya, and I want to show you this week's. You may, if you've already subscribed to my blog, which I hope you have at createwithkelley.com, but if I wanted to show you the card. This is the one we're going to make tonight. It is a little bit, hi Eileen, thank you for tuning in. Glad to see you on. And I'll get this a little bit closer here. There we go. That's just kind of a teaser. So while we get set up, let me get my iPad going here. Kind of have to wait till we actually get started before I can set it up to see the comments and everything. So let me get that set up and we'll be in good shape. Let's try that with the iPad. Always like to have a little backup. Thanks for your patience while I always have to get this ready. Not really a way around it, I guess. All right, I think we're cooking with gas here. Let's see if I can get the comments on screen there. Yes, yay. And how about comments here? Left, yay. Okay, we're all in. Hi, Marianne. I'm glad you saw the card on Kylie's blog hop. I appreciate you tuning in. Thanks, Marianne. I appreciate it. I'm going to go over how I created it. If I can remember, it's been a couple of weeks since I did it. So it'll probably be a little bit different from this first one. But this is the one that we are going to do tonight. So thank y'all for all tuning in and supporting me on my createwithkelley.com blog. Glad to have you part of the Create with Kelley crew. Thanks for tuning in again. And we'll get started. I usually give it just a minute or two. Sometimes it's hard. Everybody's clocks aren't exactly the same. So you got to rush and get everything done at the last minute before you can tune in. I know we've got some folks making supper or making dinner, and some folks maybe are ready to relax and have a little glass of wine. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad you liked the card. Yay. And I will tell you a little bit more, the Expressions in Ink suite that this is a part of. The card with the designer series paper, it has dies and it has a stamp set and it has like an ephemera pack that's really pretty, little accessories. And right now it has been so popular. When it came out, it's on back order, so you have to wait a little bit longer. But as I've told you last week, I will be posting information about a class where you'll get the kits to make these cards when you purchase the suite from me. So that'll be a nice bonus for you whenever it comes back in, when we can order it again. So I look forward to seeing you in person when we actually have the class, or you'll get a class kit if you want to come by and pick one of those up, or if you just want to pay to have it mailed to you, you can do that, whatever you want to do. But I will get started here on the card. I will turn the camera around and get going here. Be patient with me. Well, if you get seasick or something, don't watch this. I'm going to cover it up. Here we go. Stay with me. Stay with me. Let me get situated. Let's see how we did. Can't really quite tell right away because there is a delay. So we'll get going on that. See if we can straighten this up a little. Here we go. All right. I think we're cooking. Cooking with gas. Is that the way y'all say it? Getting after it? All right. Still having trouble getting that. The light is not in the right place. I've got all the lights on that I can have on and as bright as can be. So hopefully y'all are well enough lit. It looks like on the computer it's probably lit well enough. Alrighty, we are going to get started here with making this card. Thanks again for tuning in. I am Kelley Pitts, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator since 2005, and I am here in Lubbock, Texas, but I can help customers all over the United States. So that's an awesome thing that Stampin' Up! Allows us to do that, to sell countrywide, especially since we are doing so much online nowadays. All right. Well, let's get started on this. I'll kind of give you some measurements, and I have some of those posted on my blog already. And I know Marianne said she saw it on Kylie's The Blog Hop and wanted to see about creating it. So hopefully the rest of you are interested in that too, since that's what we'll be doing today. I'll set that envelope aside. And you'll start, of course, the cardstock comes 8.5 by 11. So you're going to cut it in half vertically, or horizontally, I guess, horizontally at 4 1/4. And then you'll cut it down to 6 3/4 inches. So it'll be 4 1/4. The base is 4 1/4 by 6 3/4. Okay. And then I have it scored at where it's 1.5 inches this way, which leaves 5.5 this way, which is the typical size of a card base. So we will grab a bone folder here and score this little sheet. What's everybody having tonight for the crafty happy hour? Y'all having a glass of wine? Or are you having a Coke? Or are you having something healthy? Or y'all still having iced tea from dinner? Or what have you got to drink? I've just got a boring water tonight. I intended to get some kind of little fruit, something to jazz it up a bit, but didn't get that done in time. Okay, we are going to go ahead and make the base. This is a lot easier than you would think it would be. All we're going to do is use some, and I was going to tell you, each sheet of this, whenever you cut your designer series paper, you start with a 12 by 12 sheet. This one's already cut in half because I've already made a kit. This is on one side, the gorgeous, gorgeous polished pink. That's one of our designers, one of our new in colors this year. And then, ooh, Jennifer's having crystal light. That sounds good. Raspberry green tea. This kind of reminds me of raspberry, doesn't it? So each sheet, whenever you cut these into 4 by 5 1/4, the designer series paper that's 4 by 5 1/4, you're going to have a different pattern. So the front of your card is going to look different on every card. You can get 6 out of a sheet, out of a 4 by 12 sheet. So this card is going to look, like I said, a little bit different than this sample, but they'll all be pretty. So all we're going to do is attach this. You could use tear and tape, you could use glue dots, whatever you want, because we're going to cheat and cover this up over here. I think on the first card I did, and I'm going to shave a little bit off of that window sheet. If you cut these exactly the same size, here where this is 5.5 and this is 5.5, I have discovered that you really need to trim it just a little bit more. Not even maybe a 1/16 of an inch would work on your window sheet. And I'm using my Stampin' Trimmer here. And these are just the clear window sheets. They come 12 by 12. And they're easy to work with, easy to cut. So you just cut that to size a little bit under 4 by 5.5. and then the designer series paper is 4 by 5 1/4. So you can, I think I attached, actually it was easier for me to do glue dots on this because I could just stick them kind of on the edge here. Alrighty, so I've got 3 to attach that. That's probably plenty. If you wanted to do 5, you could. If you want to do tear and tape, you can. That's totally up to you. Any of those that are really, really sticky. I don't think I would try the liquid glue on this with the window sheet, but either the tear and tape or the glue would be great. And just make sure this is kind of cleaned off. I tried to not touch it very much. You just, if you can, that's the best way. Okay, we're going to leave about an 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. I would say about an 1/8. Let's see if that's about right. Yep, about an 1/8 of an inch border. And if you'll fold this flap up here, where you can kind of tell, you can kind of put this up against the edge without touching your little glue dots there. We're going to attach that. Whoops, try to get that straight. This is why I didn't use tear and tape. It's a little easier to redo this. All right. I thought that would be easier, but it doesn't seem to be. Here we go. Let's try that one more time. What we're trying to do is get this even where it should be and line up your window sheet with the pink cardstock, the polished pink cardstock. And I still didn't get it exactly right. Boy, you get on camera and you just, oh, I know what it was because I didn't really trim that other one. I think maybe I trimmed it a little bit much. And this isn't going to show, it's going to be covered up, so. Like I said, it's been a little while. Okay, I'm going to start at this end. Line it up there. Hopefully y'all can see what I'm doing. I'm not able to watch the camera and what I'm doing here at the same time. So basically all you're doing is just attaching the designer series paper to the window sheet, and then you'll attach the window sheet to the flap. And I did use tear and tape for that one. And I used a couple of strips just right up next to the edge, and you can tear it. It doesn't have to be exact, or you can, if you want it to be more exact, you can certainly use your paper snips and do that. And I put 2 rows because it is, I think people will open and close this card quite a bit because it is just so gorgeous. I just could not bear, I got this designer series paper in and I couldn't bear to put glue on one of the sides. I thought they were both so pretty. So that's why I devised this method of being able to show both sides of the DSP at the same time. It's really our specialty DSP, specialty designer series paper, because it has all the gold foil on it. So one side has the gold foil, and I've shown you these, all the papers. You can see them online in the catalog if you don't have a printed catalog. And if you do need a printed catalog, I'm happy to help you with that. I'll be glad to send you one if you let me know. If you don't have a demonstrator already, I'm happy to help. Okay, now we're going to do the tricky thing again. Line this up. And it's a handmade card. It does not have to be exact. Everybody, whoever gets it is going to be thrilled to have it. And if you have a little bit of that tear and tape sticking out over the edge, I would recommend just pushing that up so that it's on the inside there. Okay, so it doesn't kind of go on the outside of the card. And I think we're pretty close. Now I'm getting fingerprints all over it, but there you go. Just fold that flap over, and now you have it contained in the window sheet. There you go. And then if you don't want this to show, kind of like, because it's hard to get this exact, that's when I thought, well, I'll try the glue dots instead of the tear and tape. This shows a little bit kind of how you put it together. And I didn't want to not go to the edge with the tear and tape. So what I did was cut another little piece. Whenever you cut your 4 1/4 by 11, when you cut that down to 6 3/4, you'll have a little 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 square extra. So you can cut this little strip off of that so you're not wasting it. So if you can bear to cover this up so that it doesn't show kind of where you have, let me see if I can get close enough here on camera to show you what I'm talking about. See, if you don't go all the way to the edge, your tear and tape won't show here like this, but it's hard to get it really exact, especially with this score here. So it looks a little messy, and that's why I just decided to put this little strip over it. And it looks best, I determined, if you'll line up this piece with the edge of that flap that's on the base, okay, so that those two are lined up. And this is a little skinnier than the whole the whole area here. But that way it kind of covers that up, and it still leaves most of the paper so that you can see most of the back there. And again, on this, you could probably use liquid glue if that's your favorite thing. Or if you wanted to use tear and tape again, you can certainly do that. And this, I don't think will get as much wear and tear. You could probably just do the ends in the middle on here. And just try to tear it where you don't have a lot hanging over. And if you do have some hanging over, then just fold it in. No worries. All right. See if I've got my take a pick tool handy. That sure is handy to take the backing off of tear and tape, or take the backing off of dimensionals. I really enjoy having this take a pick tool. It is handy dandy. If you don't have one, I recommend getting one. They're just $10, and they have they'll trade out the ends, and this one has putty on it to help you with your embellishments. And this end has a spatula end and a pointy end. So, there we go. We're going to kind of line that up. Line this up. And now we have a nice clean edge on the inside. See how easy that was? It looked a lot harder, right? Okay. Then when you cut your paper, the 12 by 12 designer series paper, you're going to have some of the white. You'll cut off the white edge. You won't cut off of the colored edge. So I flipped that over and then used it on the front. And I'm going to glue this down, and just use your favorite liquid glue, whatever your favorite is. If you've got one, you can use the Tombow if you want, multi-purpose glue, or if you have a favorite, that's great. And this is just gluing the DSP to cardstock, so you don't have to worry about the window sheet. And you do want to kind of do this off center if you're going to put a ribbon. If you aren't going to put a ribbon, then you could make this a little bit skinnier, the base. But I felt like it needed to be this width in order to really be sturdy, a sturdy flap. But there you go. I did that. And then the polished pink ribbon. Let me get that for you. And, well, we'll come back to that step. I'll do that last. I can't put my hands on it at this very moment. All right, let's see. Thanks, Jennifer. I'm glad you liked the design with the showing both sides. Okay, now I'll show you how we did the gorgeous part here. And this set, again, I've mentioned it before, it's the Expressions in Ink Suite, and it is on page 96 and 97 of the annual catalog that's just started in May, so it's a recent thing, a recent addiction, I guess. And I'll show you this bundle. This card is made with the Artistically Inked Cling Stamp set and the Artistic dies. So we're going to be using both of those tonight. And I have cut out a piece of gold foil that is, let's see if I've got, it's 4x4. Hopefully I'm giving you all the measurements as you go along. If not, it's on my blog. Yeah, 4x4. And my blog is createwithkelley.com. So it's easy to find everything there. All right, we're going to grab the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and do this die with the gold foil that is a specialty paper that Stampin' Up carries. That, thank goodness, they leave that in the catalog. It's been in and out quite a few times, but we're glad it's stayed in here recently. Okay, I know it's difficult to get all of this in the screen where you can see everything, but when you use our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, you have a number 1 that's a platform, and then when you're using a die, you place the number 2 plate on there, and then we will use the large die that's in the Expressions in Ink Suite. We'll put one of the number 3 plates, and let's see here. You kind of have to get it just right on the 4x4, but you don't want to waste any foil, because if you go up to even 4 1/8, then you're not getting as many pieces out of your 12x12 sheet as you could. So the 4x4 size maximizes what you can get out of there. All right, you need to line this up on both sides. I try to line it up all the way around so that your top plate is lined up with the plate number 2 and with the platform. There you go. Whoops, sorry for the shaky. Shaky. It's hard to do that without it. I'm going to, since this is a really detailed die, I'm going to run it through a couple more times, just kind of back and forth, just to make sure we get all the little pieces out. You don't have to do that, and it totally depends on your machine. So I'm still getting used to this one. I'm so happy to have it. Here we go. We're going to get rid of that. Move this out of the way, and then we'll need it again in a minute, but I'll move it for now. And then we'll use our handy dandy take a pick tool that has a die brush attachment, and I just got this in. So I was using an old one and it came apart after all the years. So what we'll do, I know one way some people do it, and this may be noisy, but is you can just hit it against the box. I store mine in a paper pumpkin box, so it makes a little bit of a mess, but some of them come out like that. I would rather not, try not to do too much with this. I don't want to scratch anything with the die brush, but all you have to do, it's easier if you leave the die on, leave the paper attached to the die, and use your little die brush to get the extra goodies out. Then we're going to pop this out and show you how gorgeous that is. Is that not beautiful? Oh my goodness, I love it. Easy peasy with that die. So see, now there are very few. There's one little thing you can just look at it and make sure you get all the little pieces out of the holes before you put it back, or I recommend that, because if you have a class or something coming up next, you want it to be clean for the next person or clean for you next time. So when you put it back for storage, I like to put it back clean. Okay, there we go. See, that's all we had to get out of there was that one little thing. Isn't that awesome? Great die brush. Okay, and the little foam, you get 2 pieces of the foam with your little die brush tip. They sell the tip separately, and it just screws on. The putty end screws off, and the die brush end screws on to that same piece. So I recommend having 2 of these Take Your Pick tools, one that you can leave with your die brush on it, and a separate one that you use for everything else. But that's just me. Okay, so we've got the gold, and I decided I really wanted to see the shadow of this, okay? It was important to me to be able to, I just really wanted the shadow of this effect on that. I'm going to show you kind of how you can see that, how it makes the shadow on that gorgeous paper that looks like alcohol inks, okay? So in order to get that much of a shadow, you've really got to use some dimensionals, and I double stacked the dimensionals. I did 2 dimensionals on top of each other. See if you can see that here. See, I have two dimensionals. There we go. That might be easier. Hopefully you can see that. Sorry, it takes a minute for me to be able to see what you're seeing. But we've got the 2 dimensionals there. And in order for the dimensionals not to show, I strategically placed small pieces that we're going to go ahead and die cut, just instead of having to fussy cut and guess. I'm going to show you how I did this with the leaves and these little pieces. And then we strategically placed the Stampin' Dimensionals behind that. So, of course, if somebody tears your card apart, they're going to be able to see that on the back, but you know, that's what you get if you're going to cheat. But I think most people are going to open the card and it's going to be beautiful like that. So, and they won't think to pull this apart to look at that back. But there's just no other way to do it and leave the shadow and leave all of this area open, which is what I thought was gorgeous. So what we're going to do is take some of the artistically inked stamp set. I'm going to set that aside again. Move this for the moment. Well, we can go ahead. On this one, I actually used one of the papers. It's the reverse side of one of the designer series papers, but I decided I would like it just as much if I stamped the leaves instead. And then I didn't waste that gorgeous designer series paper that is difficult to get because it's so popular. And so this is what we're going to try tonight on this second version of the card. We've got get all of our inks out. Put this right here. All right. Move this. Oh, thanks, Jennifer, with you got all the die brush tip and all that on there. Thanks, that's helpful. I appreciate that. Okay, what we're going to do is just stamp several of the leaves from the artistically inked set. And it is just gorgeous. This is one of our distinctive stamps, which means it has the shading in it already. It looks like somebody has watercolored it. And it just has a beautiful, beautiful texture and shading, and is just gorgeous. So I'm just doing tone on tone a few of these leaves. I think we're going to need another little piece of the Pear Pizzazz here. See where I put my extra papers. Give me 1 second here, because I may do the same thing with the white and the polished pink. no matter how much room I have, I fill up all the room. Have y'all ever done that? Oh my goodness. I use it up. There it is. I knew I had some more green. And we're going to, let's just do one more of those. Now I've already lost the block. Here we go. Do another one of these, or two. And then I'm gonna do this individual leaf. I think I used one of this size from that die. If you'll just stamp straight down and straight up and always use your Stampin' Pierce mat, you'll really get a much better impression that way. Scared myself for a minute there. All right, now we're going to get a little bit of scrap of polished pink and pale papaya, and I'm going to die cut those out. Even though we don't have to stamp them, we could stamp them so they have a little texture too. And I think that's what we'll do. We'll just try that and see how it looks. I did just the plain ones earlier when I did my initial card. But we're going to take a little bit of the pale papaya, and I'm going to leave the white. We're going to die cut some white, but not going to stamp it. We're going to use the polished pink. Let's see, let's go ahead and clean these while we're at it. Use our little Stampin' chamois that's just wet with just water, and it cleans these stamps off like a breeze. Okay, so I'm going to stamp off with this polished pink. We're just going to use a little scrap paper because it's a little dark. That way you get a much lighter image. We'll put a couple of those on there. I'm going to put a couple of these. We'll see what we want to play with. So this is, some people call it second generation stamping. You can call it stamping off, whatever you want to call it. But it's just that you're not using the initial stamping. You're using the second generation stamping. So I think this card is plenty bright without having these too dark. So I think the foil is what needs to shine. Ha ha! Get that foil shiny? Yes, I am pretty silly sometimes. Thank y'all for putting up with me. Okay, here we go. Let's try some of the pale papaya. And I think we'll do the same thing. We're going to stamp off first and then stamp on. See what we think. That's pretty light. So we'll just do some first generation on that one. Whoa! Okay. We'll do two of those. And we'll do a couple of these just to kind of play. See what we need. It looks a little bit different when it dries, so we'll give it a moment. And I may, yeah, I'm going to leave the white. Okay, now move that scrap piece out of the way. We'll get our pink, move all of this. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and stamp, and then we'll die cut. I'll go ahead and stamp the inside piece, which is your typical 4 by 5 1/4 that fits with an 1/8 inch border all the way around on your 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base. And on this one, we did the thanks, and I did the large flower, did the center, I did the large flower in the polished pink, did the center in pale papaya, and then I just used the little flowing, I don't know what you even call it. It's like a flowy scarf or something to me with the pale papaya over here. I did not use the green because the paper itself didn't have the green, But since you have the green on the leaves in the front, you could probably do that if you wanted to. What do y'all think? Anybody want to vote and tell me if you want to have a green leaf or if you want to just stick? I kind of liked it subtle with just the pink and the papaya. But if y'all have thoughts about that, let me know. I'm going to do the polished pink on the big flower. And I know it was really pretty bright when I did the first one, first generation stamping. So definitely want to stamp off on that one too. Tap, tap, tap. We'll stamp off on some scratch paper. See how dark that is? Woo! Beautiful, but I think it's a little overwhelming when you've got that paper over there. And you can decide which way you want your flower facing. I kind of like to do the images on the inside. I usually do them bottom right-hand corner, so you have plenty of room here. See, that's even pretty vivid there, but I may have stamped off twice. Or did I stamp back on here? Was anybody watching? No leaf, leave it alone. Okay. I'll use the papaya and just make that really pale over here. Do y'all like the pale with the papaya on the inside? Or you want just the pink and the pale papaya center? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? No leaf. Okay, we won't do a leaf. We'll do the little scarfy thing. And the pale papaya is quite a bit lighter than the flower, but with first generation, so I think we'll be better off doing this way. Put that on a scratch piece. And I like for it to kind of go off the edge. So I'm going to kind of barely overlap it with the flower. Woo! Is that too much, boys and girls? Girls and girls? Or do we want to go softer and stamp it on the inside? I'll be glad to do whatever y'all think. I just need to find my flower center that I just stamped with, or I thought I did. Let's look and see if we didn't mount it. Yeah, we did. Okay, the gremlins are back, or hobbits. Which was it? Jennifer, I think, is the one that determines, or maybe it's gnomes. Is it gnomes or hobbits or what? Do y'all see what I did with the little flower center stamp that I just used? Oh, there it is. Hopefully not getting on my card. Thank goodness I cleaned that. Okay. You don't think it's too much, Marianne, this way? Okay, we've got the papaya, we've got the, okay. Glad we're all on the same page here. I'm going to put the little flower center there with the papaya. Just straight down, straight up, try not to wiggle. Just give it a little time to soak into that. How gorgeous is that? Oh my gosh, this stamp set's pretty. And the designer series paper, isn't it? Oh, I love it. Okay, now let's clean these really quickly before I make a big mess. Hopefully I'm not missing too many comments here. Trying to keep up with what y'all are up to. Hope y'all are enjoying this and learning something new. I always think it's fun to play. And this was really the first card I played with. This one and the one I did last week. And I haven't been able to do any more out of this set. I've been a busy girl. Okay, so all the stamps are clean. That part's done. Did y'all want to see a different greeting? Y'all want to see the best wishes? Do you think this would be pretty for a wedding card and do the best wishes like that? Or do y'all like the big thanks in the script that I used on the first card? What would you like to see? I'm happy to do it your way, as they say. Okay. Anybody? Want to see best wishes? Just to see something a little different on the inside than the thanks that we had on this one? Okay. I'm going to try that. So I think it'll be pretty. Best wishes. There we go. I think I'm going to, should probably just stop. I was going to let you see the little dots that they have that are right here. Maybe do a few of those little dots here and here. But I'm kind of tempted to just leave it before I overdo. Sometimes I've been told to just, when you think it's done and you still want to add something, you shouldn't add it. If your first instinct is stop there, you should stop. So that's what we're going to do. Unless y'all tell me otherwise in the next couple of minutes. But I think that is equally gorgeous, don't you think? It's not too bright. This is second generation in the polished pink, and then the pale papaya is first generation. So this is solid first generation. That's stamped off. So there we go. We're going to attach that with some liquid glue. The Tombow multi-purpose, or whatever your favorite is. I'm going to get my little silicone mat out so I don't make a big mess. Y'all can tell I am used to making messes, so I've learned how not to have as big a mess. If I use the proper tools, and they are important to have the right tools, and Stampin' Up! Has a ton of wonderful tools. Okay, now we're ready for the finishing touches on the gold foil piece, and let you see how we mount that. And you could, by golly, make your own once you order this suite, and you'll get a card kit from me. So, if you order it from me. Okay, we're going to get our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine back out. And we'll use more of the dies in the artistic set, just because I think that's about the easiest way to cut these. They're not going to match exactly with the artwork, but it's going to be close. And this artwork is very flowy and watercolory and alcohol inky and however you want to call it. But it's certainly not anywhere close to perfect, so you don't have to worry about that. Really, you don't anyway, because every card is handmade, and that's what makes it special. You don't have to have it perfect. All right, we're going to cut a couple of these, and these don't have to be perfect, like I said, either. So I'm going to put this one over here. Kind of a little more difficult to do try to do it on camera for y'all, but we'll see how we do here. See if we're close. And these don't have the thin detail that the other die did, the larger die. So one time through is plenty on this one. Okay. I think we're going to need the bigger piece on that. All right. Whoops. Just experimenting there. Okay, let's get this piece of paper so we can get that leaf. And if we have trouble here, we'll use a Post-it note. But I need to move this down. We're going to cut a big one there. I'm going to go ahead and cut a couple more while we're at it, if it will allow us to do so. See if we can do this without moving too much. I think that ought to be close. See if we can get it in the camera range. Whoop. See if I can do this without the card gremlins coming after my dies here. I think I'm going to do one more leaf. One more double leaf. And one more single leaf. And this way we're going to have plenty to play with. I think we only need one of the pink. We're going to hold this up. Yep, I used 2 of the papaya, so we'll go ahead and do that. And these are not exact, but you can kind of see that you've got on the die, you've got one little dip right there. And if you kind of match up that little dip with the dip on your stamped image, you ought to be good to go. I don't think we really need these little ones, but we're going to cut them. Just in case. See if I can do that and keep them in position. There we go. And I could have die cut this ahead of time, but sometimes I like for y'all to see the whole process. So I've got one of the large papayas. I think I'm going to need 2. So we're going to do one more of those. I'll do one more leaf. I don't think I'm going to need it, but just in case y'all decide you want to see more leaves than I used on the first one. We'll do that. And then I need to cut a white one, a little white flower. And we'll be ready to assemble this card. Oops. Anybody else have any questions or need any information? Stampin' Up! Has a lot of beautiful papers out right now, and we are going to be having a designer series paper sale coming up. That's kind of a hint for y'all if you're going to be ordering some. Not all of them will be, but we will have a sale like we usually do every year when you buy multiple packs. I don't know all the details yet, but that's a teaser for you. Okay, I'm going to do a white one. One of the medium flowers, I think, is all we need in the white. And I think that's all we're going to need. We shall see. So I am looking at doing some kind of, I don't know if I would like to do Christmas in July or Christmas in August kind of a class or a stamp camp or bingo. I'm looking at a lot of different things and trying to make some decisions. So if y'all have any opinions, I still want to do my peach class. I've just gotten in my peach, Sweet as a Peach, I believe it's called, dies that are, I can't wait to play with those either. I wish I could do this full time. I know y'all know that. But one of these days I'll be able to retire from my other job and get to do this full time. Okay. As you can see, this is going to look a lot different from this one because we don't have as much of the pink showing. We've got more of the papaya, but that looks gorgeous in that flower, don't you think? And then it just makes a white flower here. So you just kind of, since this is basically done in a square, that 4x4, you can kind of arrange it however you want and make this flower show more. You can see the rose. That looks like a rose to me. You could have just the rose and the orange and this one be mostly white. But I really kind of liked this with that flower like that. What do y'all think? It'd be hard to describe which one you like, which way you like it. But the way I did the attachment, I told you I used the Stampin' Dimensionals and I double stacked them. So you could use adhesive sheet on this. It just, since everything doesn't fit exactly, those adhesive sheets, you have to have it right to cut it out. So some of them are almost turned backwards. But all I did was fill in, like, I used one of the leaves like this on here. And I believe I just used a glue dot underneath there to attach it. Since it has some texture, it's not as obvious because it's kind of peeking through those holes. If you had a big glue dot in a big area, I think it would show. But we are going to use the glue dots on this because you can use liquid glue, but like I said, it's tricky on the gold foil because it's harder to get off of the gold foil. So I'm just going to use a glue dot, and then if we don't like the way it looks, we can go to plan B. But this is what I discovered, was that these kind of fit close enough. See, it's not an exact match, of course, to those leaves, but with this free-flowing kind of whole thing, it doesn't really bother me at all that it's not exactly. And you can kind of see the glue dot, but I don't think anybody's going to look that closely at it. Okay, then we're going to attach, let's see if we want to do this the same way. Since we don't have as much pink on this flower, we may want to do these a little bit different way. And I just kind of played with them under here. Say, do you want to make that one pink? Do you want to make that one? I think this needs to be the larger one. And this is basically that center section of this flower is what this big one is. The other smaller ones are out of this trio die. Okay, so I would say we're going to attach that there. Since we don't have the pink, we don't have much of the pink, we're going to attach that. Okay, and it doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to have to get my pokey tool after that one little dot, though. That's bothering me. If you left several, it would be fine. But with just one, I think that might look a little bit funny. Okay, so we've got that on with the glue dot. Now, we want to do, I think these would show up with you could do the pink there, or we could do a white center, since it's mostly going to be over the orangey color, the pale papaya. You could use a white center, that's too big. We want to use this on one of these, I would say. I think that one's pretty. That works well for that little area. Okay. We're going to try the liquid glue on this one, and I'm not going to use the Tombow one. I'm going to use one of my favorite glues here instead, because it's not as sticky. So I know I'll get that Tombow all over me and all over this window sheet. So, oops, I'm going to put these dies up before I lose them. So if you barely use just a little bit of this glue and try not to smear it where it gets on the front side of the foil. That way I'm showing you two different ways you can do this. But if you lay it out kind of ahead of time like I did, oops. You can glue that on. And just try to glue it and let it sit for a second and not get the glue on the front on that foil. It just kind of dulls the foil if you do that. All right, now, do we want this to be pink? Since it's going to be above that orange, I think we'll try that. Do the same thing here, just kind of barely put some glue around, stick that on. Let it set for a second here. Okay, then we'll play with some of these other leaves. Let's see where we want the leaves. That one's a little big. I think this is a good size for that leaf. Yep. So this is the individual leaf die that's cut out, and that works well on that section. But just like I said, be very careful. Use a light touch here. Try to cover the area without getting so much that it'll smear when you add it to the paper, because you don't want it on the front of the foil. So do it and commit. Stick it down. Oh, I think I forgot to send this to Susan. She's usually watching. I forgot to remind her. I do appreciate y'all sharing. Even if it's for people to watch the replay, it still does help me with building my audience. When you share it with somebody you feel like would be interested in crafting, I really appreciate it. Okay. I think we're going to make a big leaf out of that one. I'm just going to fussy cut that out just a little bit. Kind of split those leaves up. We're going to glue that one on right here and have a third one. You wouldn't have to do all the leaves. You could just do whichever ones you want. And it's not going to fit exactly, and that is quite all right. It's all part of the look of the card. Let that set a second. Now we'll kind of cut this other half off, smooth that up a little. And we really need to be using our, let's use that, move that card out of the way for the moment, since we kind of know what we're doing. Well, I did a little too soon, didn't I? Yep, we need some green up there because there's a lot of white. Okay. Barely, with the light touch. Here we go. And you can hold it in your hand to do this like I've been doing. You could do it like this if you think this is easier, where you put it down on your silicone mat. These little mats are wonderful because the glue is not going to stick to it permanently. It just keeps it from getting onto the front of your card or onto something else where you don't want it. Okay, there we go. Let's see, do we want to go ahead and do this one here? I think we do, where it's open. Kind of fills all that space of the leaves. You wouldn't have to. But I think it's pretty to go on just on the back of that one leaf. All right, let that set a second. Now we're cooking with gas. Okay, let's see how this is coming along here. What do y'all think? You like it? I think that's pretty. That looks like a white rose, and then this is whatever. I'm not a horticulturalist person or botanist or whatever. But you can see this one is in a totally different position than this one. How did I get this yellow label out here? I declare. All right. Don't know. But I think that works. Okay, now we're going to use the Stampin' Dimensionals. And we're going to double stack them, which means on top of each other. And we'll put it just behind these areas because they'll show everywhere else. And a little bit of white wouldn't matter, just like we're putting a white background on this flower. But I think if it just accidentally peeks out somewhere, it'll be obvious that what we're doing. So I'd rather just use it on behind the solid pieces that we've added for this purpose, and nobody knows that that's why we did it. You could probably use a single stack, but I really think to get the shadow effect that I wanted, I decided that you needed to stack two on top of each other all the way around. So we have an even, we want it to be even. So you would have to pay extra postage for this, but if you're going to go to this much trouble making a card for somebody, I think probably an extra 20 cents. I think they're worth it, don't y'all? I think they will appreciate it. Okay. Use one here too. Oops, you got to take the backs off of the first one, or the second one won't stick to it. Just ask me how I know. I believe I've learned that lesson more than once. Okay, let's see here. Let's go ahead and do one out here, because we definitely don't want this flattening out. That's part of the wonderful effect. There. And I should have gotten a little mini for that one. I think I'm just going to use a little bit of this edge here, and it'll be just fine. Okay, it's going to be a little trickier to kind of match that up, though, isn't it? Didn't think of that. So, I recommend getting your minis. I just didn't bring them in here with me, so we'll see how this works. See if close enough is good enough on this little deal. I think the second one may have to. Oops, didn't take the back off. I knew when I was being a smarty pants earlier about that. That was not a good plan. Okay, we got to double stack this one. What I'm trying to do is match up the shape just a little bit with what I have here. It's not critical, but it'll probably work better that way. But if you had the mini dimensionals, they're going to be exactly the same size as each one will be the same size, so that's a good plan. Okay. That's sticking out a little bit. We don't want that happening. Okay. So the rest of this just all has to be held up by these. So just make sure you've got the backs off of all of them. And we'll get this repositioned like I had it. The way we liked it. And make sure your leaves aren't sticking off the edge of the card. They'll get torn up big time if you do that. So just kind of figure out where you want it, how you want the angle. Stick those down. And it looks like magic. Isn't that beautiful? Love it. I think that'll be a beautiful wedding card. I just need to get the polished pink ribbon. And I will be right back. And then we'll finish this card up. That's all we need. Okay. Y'all would think I was organized. I did know exactly where it was. It just wasn't within my reach. And if you are not bow ties and you want to just tie a knot, you can do that. But I did want it to show on the inside to just kind of cover that line up. So that's why I'm doing it this way. If y'all want to just do a faux bow, or if you want to put the ribbon on and then tie a bow and glue dot that on, that's lovely too. But I think this adds just the right touch. And leaving it blank on the front, I don't think it needs a greeting on the front. I think it's so pretty, it just speaks for itself, this designer series paper, don't y'all? I don't feel like it has to have a greeting on the front. It can just be gorgeous, and then the greeting on the inside is sufficient. I couldn't bear to cover any of it up, of the die or the paper with the greeting on the front, so that's why I didn't put one. But if y'all want one, if you feel like it needs it, or if you feel like say this flower is too empty, then you could certainly attach a greeting to the front. See how we're doing here? If I can get in there and get that tied on camera. Who can explain why that is more difficult on camera? I don't know. But when you're tying a bow, if you're trying to even up the sides or the tails, be sure to hold the middle when you're doing that. And then when you're sure you've got it right, you can pull both tails and both loops at the same time, and that will usually take care of it. And I always do my little ends at a slant. This ribbon could ravel a little, but that's just part of the look. I think that's really pretty. So, see, it is not that difficult. It looks like it would be a difficult card, but it's really not. It has a few steps, but if you made several, like if you decided to go ahead and use the whole sheet, you could go ahead and make 6 of them alike and just die cut it. It's really fairly easy to do. Then you'll go ahead and line up this ribbon on the inside. See how that hides the strip of this? It hides that edge. And I think it's just gorgeous. Whoops, I think I did it this way on the other card. There we go. Still hides the edge. Very pretty. And then if you want to use a glue dot to hold your bow down, and the bow could be at the top, it could be at the bottom, it could be in the center, and you can just move it like that, just moving the card just a little bit. I mean, moving the ribbon that way. I think it kind of needs to be in the center on this one. Usually I'm an asymmetrical girl. Kind of don't think it needs to be in the center, but this one, I kind of like it that way. Well, that's pretty too. But I would recommend just getting a glue dot once you've decided exactly where you want it to be. Just take your pick tool and grab a glue dot, stick it underneath the knot there of the bow knot. And you could fuss with it a little bit and get it like you want it, but I think that's plenty of this covered up on the back with the one white. If we wanted a papaya one, easy for me to say. I meant to do a papaya one back here and I didn't get it done. So, but I like it. You could do papaya under one of these. I just didn't think it would show here. So if you wanted to cover some of this flower up, you could, but to me, it didn't need a center in that one. So that's why I left it that way. So here's our card from today. Thank you, Marianne. I hope this helped you if you'd like to make one of your very own. Here we go. Here's the open one and the closed one. I haven't glue dotted it, but that's it. As simple as can be, as long as you can get this set, right? Hopefully it will be off of back order and available soon. And again, it's called the Expressions in Ink Suite. Here's the one from tonight, and here's the one. See, this one I did some pale papaya, and this one I did the pink. So just kind of wanted to show y'all some variety. And this, if you had used this that I stamped, I just did the pale papaya cardstock here, but this one I stamped. So it would show a little more texture underneath if you did that. But however y'all decide to do it, I'm sure it will be beautiful. But I hope you've enjoyed it and have learned something new. I'll turn the camera back up and we will close this out. I appreciate your input. Oh, I'm glad, Marianne. I'm glad to hear you're going to make one. Yay! Love it. I love sharing creative ideas with other demonstrators, with my downline, with my team, with customers. It's just a lot of fun. I love it. I can be inspired by so many people and hope y'all are inspired by this. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera up so y'all don't get seasick here while I make my change. If I can figure out what I'm doing here. Can't see where my camera is. There we go. Okay. Hang with me. A little bit on the crooked side, but we're there. I'm going to hold this up and let y'all see the card one more time. Here's the inside. Let's see how I can do this and still, let's hunker down. Here's the inside and the outside of the one we did tonight. So thanks again for your kind attention and your comments and your input, and hope you will subscribe to my blog if you haven't already, createwithkelley.com, and sign up to be part of the Create with Kelley crew on Facebook. That is a separate group that eventually I'll be posting different things on the group and on the Facebook page. So they're different. Create with Kelley, Stampin Up Independent Demonstrator is the page, and then Create with Kelley Crew is the group. So would love to have you join that. It's available to the public. So hope you have enjoyed tonight, and if you have any questions or would like to join my Stampin' Up team or want to find out more about that or anything else about the sales coming up with the Designer Series paper, that'll be tuning in. I'll post that on the blog. So thanks again. I look forward to seeing you at an online class soon or an in-person class soon right here in Lubbock, Texas.